Hello, wholeness. Welcome to my channel. My name is Rashida Silvertree, and this is a continuation in the forgiveness series. So here we go. So I'm going to talk about alchemizing traumatic experiences into a spiritual vaccine. Yes, I said the V word. Um, what's alchemy? To me, alchemy is magic. It's a form of magic. It's energy manipulation. And one white magic, or I would say the truth, if you will, would be to be the master of the self, mastering yourself, mastering the elements of you, mastering the aspects of you, self progress, self evolution. Okay, the cell. We are in these cells or vessels, if you will, okay, for a specific amount of time to work through our karma, to create, okay, all about creativity, to learn to forgive, to learn to manifest, to learn to show gratitude for the things that we receive in our life, to love, to induce change and to transform. We're in our vessels, we are in the cell, we are here to love and to learn ourselves, okay? So alchemy deals with the elements, if you will. In my personal opinion, they deal with, in my own personal practice, deals with the earth, water, fire, wind, and ether, the spirit, all five elements, okay, of what makes up our physical reality. And so the ability to alchemize your reality is a gift. It is mastery, okay? And you may have a teacher, it's all God-led, it's all guided through spirit, and whatever you call upon, whether that's the Torah, the Quran, the Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, and other sacred texts, any religion or pagan line or lineage that you are a part of, it all you tune into that, right? You tune into whatever you feel called to. But alchemy is a very, very powerful practice. And so when these parts of ourselves are the elements, if you will, the fire, water, earth, ether, wind, air, or wind, elements are imbalanced in any way due to trauma, right? Trauma, emotional trauma, psychological trauma, physical trauma, right? They can create certain alchemical imbalances within the energy field, which then manifests through the mind, the heart, and then the body. And then, again, the body keeps the score. That's a book. I forgot the author. I really want to read it, though, because the title is so powerful. Body keeps the score, right? So, and then we have experiences, okay? And as alchemists, throughout our entire life, we experiment and we have experiences. We create experiences, we have or receive experiences, and then we experiment, okay? So when we put all of those three things together, alchemizing traumatic experiences, that's a lot, isn't it? It's a huge load, okay? Traumatic experiences is something that should not be like, oh, get over it, or you're still mad at this person, why haven't you forgiven them, you're not over that yet. Many of us in the human collective, we lead our lives in a traumatic way. We think traumatically, we feel traumatically, and we use our bodies. We live in traumatized bodies, and that's our traumatic experience in this life. A lot of us do this, and it's very, very sad, because then we induce more and more trauma on a subconscious level. And so how do we create a spiritual vaccine with this? What do we do? How do we become better with this process? Well, in one of my videos on forgiveness, I talked about how trauma feels like someone opens up your heart, rips out your heart, and then places a stone in its place. And that's what you're left with. You're left with just a stone wandering out throughout your whole energy field, okay? And it's heavy, it's dense, it's negative. It's just you're not living a full life. You may have everything too. You may have everything. You may have your money, the great relationship, perfect relationship with your kids, success everywhere you look, but you're miserable because you're carrying this stone in you. You're carrying this rock. Okay? This is why it's so important to work on your metaphysical self. Your spiritual life is so important because it can really, really affect like your everything. It truly can. But the spiritual vaccine, right? So spiritual, the word spirit. Spirit is ether. Spirit is, beyond the physical. Spirit is not a ghost. It is just an essence that we all have. We all have a spiritual essence. Okay, we have a spirit, and then we have the vaccine. Okay, vax, right? We're very, very familiar with that, and there's such a huge emphasis on the physical vaccine in this reality, right? You need a vaccine for this, and you need a vaccine for this and this microorganism that you can't see, but you can feel and it can kill you. You need this, you need a vaccine for that, and a vaccine for that, and a vaccine for that. How about, can we have a vaccine for hatred? That we're just, it like boosts our immunity for negative energy? Can we develop spiritual vaccines for this ish out here? Metaphysical vaccines, please. My goodness. We have a vaccine for everything, but we still remain sick. Our spirits still remain sick due to our traumatic experiences. A lot of the time. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. So alchemizing our traumatic experiences takes a bit of work. It does. You have to figure out where, number one, the elements and how the elements deal with your physical form. Well, and let me stop. Hold on. How does this tie into forgiveness? How does alchemizing your traumatic experiences, how does it, what does that have to do with forgiveness? Because with trauma, it creates imbalances within your energy bodies. Okay, so let's get into the elements for a little bit here. So you have your fire element, water element, air element, ether element, earth element. Okay, and now I know I'm not a big fan of astrology. I'm not, like, I don't get caught up in the whole signs. I think there's truth in everything. Astrology is an awesome energy blueprint for many, for thousands, for millions of people. I throw no shade in tarot readers who do signs every day, literally every day. That's impressive. But I just don't. I have my own thing going, and I think we need to focus on the alchemist as a whole, not just on the personality, if you will, because it's just a persona. Persona is just, it's not real. But what's real is the alchemy, the alchemist, the elements. And so everyone has, sometimes you have a dominant element in some seasons and cycles in life. You're more earthy. Sometimes in some cycles and seasons in life, you are more fiery. Sometimes in some seasons in your life, you're more airy. And sometimes you're more water, right? Sometimes you're more ether, okay? Or you're just like popping in and out of this reality all the time. That doesn't happen very often. You have to do a lot of meditation to do that. When you're dealing with the ether element, the spirit element. But what I say all that to say is these elements can become imbalanced, okay? For example, you have energy centers all throughout the body. The Eastern traditional, they call this, the energy wheel is the chakra. The chakra is, we have hundreds of them, by the way. But they westernize so much of Eastern traditions that they leave out that fact, and they just focus in on the 7. Oh, your 7th chakra. Oh, your sacral chakra. They don't deal with all the tiny ones that you have without your body. They ignore all that anyway. But these imbalances with your fire energy, you could have too much fire or not enough water, too much earth, not enough wind or air energy. I'll briefly give you a definition of what all this means. The fire energy is your creative life force, sexual, sensual energy. That is your vavoom, if you will. That is your passion, okay? Now you can have a lot of anger and rage with this, all right? And sometimes we have too much of this, sometimes we have too little. Next is your water energy. Your water energy can be very emotional, very intuitive, very knowing and sentient. Too much can be very depressing, okay? And too little, you're very cold, okay? All right. And then sometimes we have a bit too much air, like your airy fairy, okay? You have beautiful ideas, but you're pulled to the left, to the right. There's no concrete, there's no focus. And then very balanced air energy, and sometimes you can talk too much, right? You talk way too much, or you don't talk enough. Yeah. And then with the earth energy is very, earthy people tend to be very, how would I describe? Very comfortable to be around. Too much earth, you're too focused on the physical plane, okay? You're too focused on money, too focused on the material. And then if you're not, you're too focused on your looks, on your body, on other people's body. You're very judgy, okay? Very, very judgy. And then with too little earth, you can not care at all about your health. Like you just don't give a you don't care. You don't give a crap. Okay, if you have a heart attack, you ignore your symptoms in your body. You don't take care of it, and you typically don't. You don't care about your finances. You don't care about your future. You live from place. You move from place to place to place. All of these symptoms that I'm metaphysical symptoms, if you will, of imbalances in the earth or in the your alchemical body. All this plays into trauma and experiences in many, 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 many ways. I don't want to make this video too long. So I might make this shorter. I'm not quite sure, but I will, because I'm not sure how many of you guys watch all my videos throughout the entire duration of the video. But when it comes to traumatic events, it throws, when you begin to alchemize and start focusing in on your elements, like what you're strongest and what you're weakest, right? What you're most dominant, what you're most recessive or submissive. And then you look at what's traumatized you, you can then begin to play around with your energy. This takes a lot of practice. This takes a lot of time and patience and persistence and prioritizing, okay? So to make a spiritual vaccine, I might have to make another video because that's going to be a bit long. So yeah, I guess briefly what I'll do is I'll touch on this with forgiveness. See where forgiveness fits with each element in you. Because each aspect of our, we have our water, fire, earth, wind, ether, different parts of us that have been wounded, right? And I think the most infamous parts would be the inner child. Inner child resides in the heart. Inner child is very water, very full of water, and it's very creative too, water energy as well. Very expressive, right? So that's just a little bit of what I wanted to get into. It's such a really big, alchemy is such a really big topic. And my future energy readings will definitely touch on that a lot more in the near future. But a spiritual vaccine is just taking the experiences and alchemizing them so that the next time around when those things begin to show up again, you know what to do. You know how to react. You know how to respond. Okay? That's typically about it, I think, that's it. I'm sorry I went on the alchemy tangent. I was really wanting to focus more on just how to do that, but there would definitely be more videos to come, because forgiveness is that activation of that channel of releasing. It's a very magical and very powerful practice to forgive. And so you need to tune into which element is your dominant one, your dominant channel. So some of us, for me, it's water, right? And like I just am very empathic. In this season, I'm not really tuned into the water right now. I'm just not. It's not my and there's always a season and cycle for each energy, I think. And so when you tune into the specific element that is your dominant one or the weakest one, and work on that with forgiveness. Work on forgiveness and water, that water energy, and work with that. Work with that air energy, forgiveness, like you're thinking, forgiving thoughts. You're feeling, forgiving feelings, emotions. You're creating forgiveness, forgiving energy. You're building a foundation on forgiveness. You see? So that's it. That's all. All right. Thank you so much.